HMP Styal, a prison hidden away in the Cheshire countryside, continues to present the illusion of calm and community, while inside, the women are contending with some of the most neglected, disturbing and damning conditions in the British female estate. The prison claims to be a multifunctional facility, housing remand prisoners, women serving short sentences, and up to 50 serving life or indeterminate terms. Yet it is clear that this prison is not fit for purpose. From a staggering rise in drug use, to the crumbling infrastructure, and the overwhelming presence of acute mental illness, HMP Styal reflects a system in total dysfunction. Behind the fences, women are not just serving sentences, they are surviving trauma, neglect, and bureaucratic failure. The majority live in dilapidated houses, old orphanage buildings dating back to the early 1900s. These are not homes, but degrading relics. Most have serious fire safety concerns, electrical faults so severe women can't use the microwave and kettle at the same time, mold-infested bathrooms, and sweltering or freezing rooms due to failed heating systems. Only Bronte House has seen recent refurbishment, a showpiece while the rest rot. Meanwhile, Wait Unit, where around 100 women live in cellular accommodation, offers just 4 to 5 hours out of cell each day. Constant confinement and reduced access to exercise breeds a dangerous environment. Staffing levels are dire. One officer is expected to cover up to 3 houses at once. This means no time for proper engagement, no support, no emotional connection, just a strained presence that's barely visible. The prison's entire incentive scheme has collapsed under this neglect. The complaint system is a joke. Women are left sending endless digital applications that receive no reply, submitting over 100,000 in a year. On the wings, emergency call bells are misunderstood or ignored. This lack of access to staff has become more than an inconvenience. It's become a trigger. Women self-harm out of frustration and despair. Self-harm rates have nearly doubled since the last inspection. One woman harmed herself over 400 times in a single year before being transferred to hospital. 39 women were sent to Styal, not because they were criminals, but because the NHS and local authorities failed to find them a bed in a secure mental health facility. These women were not criminals, they were unwell. Officers, untrained in psychiatric care, are expected to manage their complex needs. Suicide remains a looming threat. 4 self-inflicted deaths have occurred since the last inspection, and at least 1 more is suspected to have followed shortly after. And yet, leaders still do not properly analyze or record why these women are harming themselves. It's not just tragic, it's negligent. The prison is ravaged by drugs. Nearly half of the women on Wait Wing report having developed a drug problem while inside. Nearly a quarter of the entire population say they've developed one in custody. Packages are passed at visits, mailed in disguised as legal letters, or smuggled in via recalls. The prison has no body scanner, no X-ray machine, and no modern technology to prevent this. The rate of positive drug tests is the highest of all women's prisons. 1 month peaked at 41%. Leadership has no meaningful control. Suspicion testing is inconsistent. Targeted searches are often delayed or abandoned, and security intelligence goes unacted upon due to resource shortages. Mental health services are overwhelmed. Over 50 women are referred for assessments every month. A staggering 30 were transferred to hospital in 1 year, but many waited months in conditions tantamount to psychological torture. One woman waited 104 days. Some were sectioned at the gate the moment they were released, an indictment of the system that dumped them in prison because there was nowhere else to put them. The prison doesn't have proper facilities for this level of illness. Only 2 constant supervision cells exist, one in segregation, an area completely unfit for mental health care. The WEPS team and the mental health unit try, but it's triage on a battlefield. 1 in 4 women is under the care of mental health services, and yet there is no dual diagnosis pathway for those with co-occurring substance misuse. Despite how common this is, education is another broken promise. The curriculum is outdated and unchallenging. English and maths are poorly delivered, women are placed on the wrong courses, and attendance is low. Leadership does not hold the education provider to account. There is not enough to stimulate or empower. Even those desperate to learn are left bored and waiting. Laptops take weeks to arrive, activities are minimal. Many women are locked in, isolated, and stagnating. Meanwhile, purposeful work opportunities are reserved for a lucky few. Even the incentivized substance-free living unit is poorly resourced. No peer support, no dedicated staff, no programming. It's just a label on a door. Women are failing to reintegrate. A fifth of the population receives no visits at all. ROTL is used well in some cases, especially for mothers, but visits are restricted. Only 80 slots a week are available, often fully booked. Family days have become unpopular due to heightened drug security, and video calls are underused. The new visitors centre is modern, but cosmetic improvements cannot disguise the system's failure. 1 in 5 women is released homeless. Some of these women are high risk, unstable, and completely unsupported. This isn't rehabilitation, it's reckless endangerment. There are some bright spots. The MBU is caring and compassionate, some health services have improved, and new leadership shows potential. But these are flashes of light in a prison suffocated by chronic failure. Staff want to do well but are overwhelmed. Officers have lost the time and space to care. Peer support is often the only functioning mechanism inside. In a place where 4 women have taken their own lives and many more are hanging on by a thread, that's not good enough. This is not a prison, it's a holding pen for the forgotten, the broken, and the failed. Women are sent here by a system that doesn't know what else to do with them. They enter with trauma and leave with more. Leadership may be optimistic, but without real investment, enhanced security, better mental health provision, and a dramatic overhaul of housing conditions, this place will continue to eat the women alive. How long are we going to pretend that sending mentally ill women into crumbling prison houses with no help, no support, and no purpose is justice? What happens to a society when it locks away its most vulnerable and then forgets them? Is this what rehabilitation looks like? Or is it just punishment for being unwell, addicted, and unwanted? Let us know what you think in the comments. Is prison the right place for these women, or is the system failing them before they even get through the gates? A woman who delivered a stillborn baby alone in the toilet of her prison cell says she will never forgive the prison for what she describes as a horrific and preventable death. Louise Powell, 31, was incarcerated at HMP Styal in Cheshire in 2020 when she unknowingly went into labour. Despite repeatedly pleading for medical help, no ambulance was called and she was left to endure the trauma alone. Miss Powell, who had no idea she was pregnant, described crying out for assistance while experiencing excruciating pain, only to be ignored. Her baby, named Brooke, was born without signs of life. An investigation by the Prisons and Probation Ombudsman later found significant failings in her care, concluding there were missed opportunities to identify her urgent clinical needs. The report recommended that prison staff, particularly nurses, receive proper training to recognize the signs of early labor. It also criticized the prison's duty nurse, who had been contacted 3 times regarding Miss Powell's condition but chose not to visit her. The report labeled this a serious error of judgment. In a public statement, Miss Powell said, "The pain of Brooke's death will never leave me. I cannot forgive the prison or healthcare for leaving me when I was calling for help and felt like I was dying. I was having a medical emergency and should have been urgently helped. Instead, I was left. I want justice for Brooke, so no other woman has to go through this horror in prison." Government officials responded to the findings, acknowledging the tragedy and stating that steps had been taken to improve care for pregnant women in custody. There are now efforts to strengthen pregnancy screening procedures across the prison estate to prevent future cases from being missed. Healthcare providers responsible for HMP Styal have issued an apology for the baby's death and confirmed that they have accepted all the findings of the report. They stated a commitment to ensuring that lessons are learned and that robust changes are implemented. According to the report, the supervising officer on Miss Powell's house block acted appropriately by raising concerns with the duty nurse and updating them as the situation worsened. One note, written an hour before the birth, recorded, Miss B is having very bad stomach cramps and is bleeding. Hotel 1, Nurse 2, the duty nurse, contacted 3 times but would not come out to see her. Tasked night staff with coming to give pain relief an appointment made for triage tomorrow. Despite this, investigators concluded that all other staff who supported Miss Powell during and after the traumatic incident acted with compassion and did what they could under the circumstances. Miss Powell had been sentenced in March 2020 for offences including common assault, racially aggravated harassment, and criminal damage. On arrival at HMP Styal, she told staff there was no chance she was pregnant. However, her legal representative Jane Ryan revealed that staff were aware she had not had a period for 4 to 5 months, yet no further checks were made. The healthcare provider at the prison said it fully accepts the findings and has pledged to action all recommendations following this tragic incident. Louise Powell's story raises urgent questions about the treatment of women behind bars and the state of healthcare in British prisons. How could a woman be left alone in agony, in clear need of emergency care? Why were obvious signs overlooked? And how many other women are still at risk from similar failings? Is enough being done to protect the most vulnerable in custody? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. The daughter of a woman who took her own life just 2 days into a prison sentence has condemned HMP Styal for what she calls inhumane neglect that left her mother to suffer in agony and despair. Christine MacDonald, a 55-year-old mother of 4, was found with self-inflicted injuries in her cell at HMP Styal on the 2nd of March 2019. She had been jailed for 12 weeks after stealing items including a block of cheese, shampoo, and bubble bath, a sentence handed down just hours after she witnessed her daughter fall from the roof of a building during a distressing arrest. Christine, who struggled with addiction and mental health issues, was plunged into acute psychological trauma and physical agony from opioid withdrawal. An inquest later revealed that she repeatedly asked staff for information about her daughter's condition, but no one ever gave her an answer. That failure, combined with a lack of medical support, proved fatal. A jury at the inquest concluded that Christine's death was a suicide contributed to by neglect, describing a gross failure in basic care. Many jurors were visibly emotional as the verdict was read out in Cheshire Coroner's Court. Christine's youngest daughter, Sherry MacDonald, issued a heartbreaking statement. It was horrific how she was treated, how she was neglected, how she was calling out for help and nobody came. She was left to suffer. It was inhumane. All of it was inhumane. Christine had been taken straight to Blackpool Magistrates Court and sentenced on the 1st of March without being allowed to remain with her injured daughter, Christy. Her lawyer later revealed that Christine had entered prison without knowing if Christy was dead or alive, unable to speak to any family members. This uncertainty, paired with severe opiate withdrawal and no methadone treatment, left her in a state of extreme mental and physical distress. Despite showing signs of crisis, Christine's pleas were ignored. Sherry even called the prison directly to pass on a message that Christy was alive and in hospital, begging staff to reassure her mother. The message was never delivered. Medical staff, meanwhile, failed to provide methadone because Christine could not provide a urine sample, likely due to dehydration. The result, she was left to endure full withdrawal with mounting psychological stress and no support. She was taken to Wythenshawe Hospital for assessment on the 2nd of March, then returned to her cell. Hours later, officers found her unresponsive. She was rushed back to hospital, but died shortly afterwards. Sherry, a nurse herself, added, "As someone who works in the NHS, I understand the pressures on public services, but the level of care my mother received was dangerously inadequate, both physically, while she was withdrawing, and emotionally, after witnessing her daughter's fall. She was backed into a corner and not given any support or acknowledgement of that suffering." The inquest jury identified several critical failures. Healthcare and prison staff failed to share vital information. The message about her daughter's condition was never relayed. Treatment for her addiction was mishandled. Her repeated requests to see a nurse were ignored. The coroner announced she would file a report to the governor of HMP Styal and the Ministry of Justice, highlighting concerns that emergency medical response protocols were still not fully understood within the prison, a dangerous flaw that could result in more preventable deaths. A spokesperson for the Ministry of Justice offered condolences and acknowledged the findings, stating, "We are investing £14 million to improve safety in women's prisons and strengthening support for those at risk of self-harm and suicide. We will carefully consider the coroner's findings and respond accordingly." The prison's healthcare provider, Spectrum Community Health CIC, also responded, "We extend our deepest condolences to Miss MacDonald's family. We accept the findings in full and have implemented all recommended changes. We remain committed to improving the care and support women receive inside the prison." Christine MacDonald was not a danger to the public. She was a vulnerable woman in distress, criminalized for petty theft, and pushed into a tragic corner by systemic failings. Her death is not an isolated case. She was the 11th woman to die from self-inflicted wounds at HMP Styal since 2007. How many more mothers, daughters and sisters must die before prison becomes a place of rehabilitation rather than despair? Are our prisons fit for the most vulnerable in society, or are they quietly condemning them? Let us know what you think. A man who supplied Class A drugs into a women's prison in Macclesfield will face strict monitoring conditions upon release from jail. Anton Daniels, 37, of Brooklands Road in Manchester, is currently serving a 10-year prison sentence for his role in a drug supply operation linked to HMP Styal. At a hearing at Chester Crown Court on Wednesday the 13th of October, Mr. Daniels was handed a Serious Crime Prevention Order, SCPO, to be enforced for 3 years following his release. Mr. Daniels was convicted alongside Tanya Dewar of Somerset Close in Macclesfield, who is currently serving a 7.5-year sentence. The pair had known each other for years, and prosecutors alleged that Miss Dewar acted as a trusted associate within the operation, helping Mr. Daniels distribute heroin and crack cocaine. When Miss Dewar was remanded into custody at HMP Styal for a separate matter, Mr. Daniels exploited her position inside the prison to smuggle drugs to inmates. The Serious Crime Prevention Order imposed on Mr. Daniels includes several strict conditions. He may not possess more than one mobile phone, and it must not be an encrypted device. He cannot carry more than £1,000 in cash at any time. He is barred from purchasing or owning a safety deposit box. He must inform police of his residential address, any business premises he uses or owns, and provide details about any vehicle he uses or has access to. Detective Sergeant Angela Kopok from Macclesfield Local Policing Unit said, "Mr. Daniels was an established drug dealer responsible for supplying crack cocaine and heroin into a prison and the wider Macclesfield area. Those involved in serious and organised crime often believe they can return to a criminal lifestyle once they leave prison. However, with measures like the SCPO, we can ensure they remain under close watch even after release." She added, "This order will allow us to robustly monitor Mr. Daniels and help deter him from slipping back into organised criminality.